I still remember the first time I realized I wasn't loved. I wasn't chosen. I wasn't enough. I was only 6 years old when my mother called me a disappointment because I colored outside the lines. It wasn't just words. It was the way her eyes looked at me, like I ruined everything just by existing. And that was only the beginning. Every single birthday, they reminded me of my flaws. Why are you so dramatic? Why can't you be like your sister? It didn't matter how hard I tried. My efforts were invisible. And you know what hurts the most? I wasn't asking for much. Just to be seen, to be loved, to be their daughter. I spent years believing that maybe, just maybe, if I was perfect enough, they would finally smile at me. But perfection was never enough. They always found something to criticize. My hair wasn't right. My voice was annoying. My laugh? Too loud, too embarrassing. I was never their pride, always their shame. Do you know what it feels like when the people who are supposed to protect you become the ones who hurt you the most? I wonder, are you watching this because you've felt that too? Have you ever asked yourself, what did I do to deserve this? Because I asked that every single day. But something inside me started to change. A voice, quiet at first, whispering, enough. Enough of being the family's punching bag. Enough of shrinking myself to fit their expectations. And you know what? For the first time in my life, I started thinking, maybe it's not me who's broken. Maybe it's them. It got worse as I grew older. While my friends shared sweet stories about their moms helping them get ready for prom, mine told me, don't embarrass yourself. No one's gonna pick you anyway. Yeah, that was my reality. Her words were sharper than any knife. And my father? Silent. Always silent. I remember looking in the mirror that night, trying to convince myself that I wasn't as worthless as they made me feel. But the reflection didn't believe me. The reflection saw someone broken. Someone unloved. Tell me, have you ever felt that? Staring at yourself, wondering if you were the problem all along? They loved comparing me to my brother and my sister. My brother was the genius. My sister was the angel. And me, I was the mistake. I never understood why. I never understood what I had done so wrong, to deserve being treated like a burden in my own home. Every family dinner was a nightmare. Look how messy you are. Don't talk, you'll ruin the mood. Or my favorite, why can't you just be normal? I started eating less, talking less, existing less. I thought disappearing would finally make them happy. But even then, I was still wrong. Until one day, something snapped. I caught my mom gossiping about me on the phone. She laughed, saying, "She's useless. She'll never become anyone." And in that exact moment, I made a decision that would change everything. I will never let them humiliate me again. I started planning my escape, not a physical one, but an emotional escape. I stopped seeking their approval. I stopped waiting for their validation. But guess what? The moment I pulled away, they noticed. Oh, they noticed. Suddenly, they were asking, "What's wrong with you now?" As if they didn't know. It's funny. When you stop playing the role they assigned you, they panic. They lose control. My mom started acting like the victim, telling everyone, "She's so ungrateful. We gave her everything." Everything? Really? Because all I remember is pain, shame, and rejection. But sure, let's call that love. My father finally opened his mouth, but not to defend me. No. He said, "Stop making problems for the family. as if I was the problem, as if standing up for myself was some crime. Do you know what it feels like when silence cuts deeper than words? When the person who should defend you just watches? I spent nights crying into my pillow, asking God, why did you give me these parents? But then, a scarier question hit me. What if I became like them? Cold, bitter, full of hate. That thought scared me more than anything. And it was in that fear that I realized something powerful. I had a choice. I could let them define me, or I could redefine myself. And that's when something inside me ignited. A fire, a rebellion, a voice that screamed louder than their insults. I deserve to be loved. I deserve to be respected. And for the first time, I believed it. But believing it doesn't mean it was easy. Oh no. When you change, your entire world shakes. My mother doubled down on her cruelty. Look at her, acting like she's better than us now. My siblings followed her lead, whispering, rolling their eyes, laughing behind my back like I couldn't hear, but I did. One day during dinner, I stood up. I looked at each one of them and said, why do you hate me so much? What have I done, besides trying to be loved by you? The table went silent. My father cleared his throat, but didn't say a word. My mother smirked. And my sister? She just scoffed. My mom finally spoke. Because you're weak. Always have been. Can you imagine? Your own mother calling you weak? For wanting love. For wanting to belong. That's when it hit me. I could beg for a lifetime, and it still wouldn't change anything. Because the problem was never me. I realized they needed someone to hate, someone to dump all their misery onto. And I was the easy target, the scapegoat, the black sheep. But you know what? I was done. Done playing that role. Done pretending I was broken just to make them feel whole. Done being their victim. That night, I made a promise to myself. This ends with me. The cycle of humiliation. The endless begging for love. The sleepless nights wondering why me. No more. I was ready to become someone. They could never break again. Someone they'd regret ever underestimating. The next morning, everything felt different. I woke up, but not as the broken daughter anymore. I was someone else now. Someone who didn't need their approval to exist. But you know what's crazy? The moment I started ignoring their games, they got louder, more cruel, more desperate to pull me back. My mom started digging into my choices. Why do you dress like that? Who do you think you are? My sister laughed. She thinks she's special now. And my father, still hiding behind his silence. But deep down, I knew. Their insults weren't about me. They were about themselves, their own emptiness. I started focusing on my own life, my goals, my future. But they hated that. They hated seeing me rise. My mom would say things like, "Don't get your hopes up. People like you don't succeed." And for the first time, I didn't cry. I smiled. Because her words had no power anymore. I wonder, are you watching this because you felt this too? Have you ever realized that sometimes family can be your first bully, your first heartbreak, your first lesson in how cruel the world can be? But let me tell you something. That doesn't have to be your ending. Because slowly, I started rewriting my story. I began applying for jobs they said I'd never get, taking classes they laughed at, building a life outside their prison of humiliation. Every small step was a slap in the face of their expectations, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Of course, They didn't give up easily. My mom tried guilt. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" My father chimed in. "Finally, you're tearing this family apart." Funny, as if it wasn't already torn apart by years of neglect, shame, and silence. They even tried bribing me with fake affection. Suddenly, I was being invited to family events I was never welcome at before. But it wasn't love, it was control. A desperate attempt to pull me back into the role of the scapegoat. But this time, I didn't take the bait. I stood my ground. I told them, "You don't get to mistreat me for years and then expect me to pretend it never happened." The look on my mother's face, pure rage. My sister, shocked. And my father, well, he just looked at the floor like always. Cowardice wrapped in silence. But here's the truth they never expected. The more they tried to break me, the stronger I became. The louder my voice grew. I wasn't the broken girl in the corner anymore. I was the storm, the consequence of their cruelty. And for the first time, they were scared of me. Because deep down, they knew. I was never weak. I was never the problem. I was simply the mirror, reflecting everything they hated about themselves. And now, that mirror wasn't afraid to shatter everything. Everything they built on lies, control, and humiliation. Now, it was my turn. I started doing something they never expected. Talking. Talking about the truth, to friends, to people who cared, to anyone who would listen. I was no longer hiding their abuse behind fake smiles and forced family photos. I was exposing it. And oh, they hated that. They absolutely hated it. My mom stormed into my room one day, screaming, "How dare you make us look bad?" And for the first time, I didn't flinch. I stood tall, looked her straight in the eyes and said, "You did that all by yourself." Silence. The kind of silence that tastes like fear, like defeat. My sister tried a different tactic. "You're ruining the family. You're making Mom cry." Oh, how convenient. Suddenly, I was the villain, for refusing to be the victim. But guess what? I didn't care anymore. Their crocodile tears didn't move me. Their guilt trips expired. Have you ever noticed? When you start healing, the ones who broke you call you selfish. Suddenly, standing up for yourself is an attack. Saying no is betrayal. But I wasn't falling for it. Not anymore. Because I realized something powerful. Something they never wanted me to know. I had power. Power over my choices. Power over my life. Power over my own story. And let me tell you, the moment you realize that, the chains snap, the cage opens, and you become unstoppable, untouchable, free. But freedom comes with a price. The more I distanced myself, the louder the rumors became. She's crazy. She's ungrateful. She always loved playing the victim. Oh, they made sure the entire family heard it. The neighbors, the friends, anyone who would listen. Their image mattered more than the truth. I remember walking into a family gathering, all eyes on me, whispering, judging, as if I was some criminal for daring to heal. But I held my head high, smiled, because I knew something they didn't. Their opinions couldn't pay my rent. Their gossip couldn't break my spirit anymore. My father finally spoke up that day, his voice shaking. "We did our best. You're the one who's never satisfied." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was pathetic. If that was your best, then no wonder this family's so broken. Gasps. Silence. rage boiling behind fake smiles. That's when my mother stood up, pointed at me and said, "You're no daughter of mine." And for the first time in my life, those words didn't hurt. They freed me, because I realized I was never her daughter. Not really. I was just the reflection of everything she hated about herself, and in that moment, I smiled. A real smile. One that tasted like victory, like liberation. "Good," I whispered, because I never wanted to be. And with that, I turned my back, not just on them, but on every lie, every wound, every scar they ever gave me. Walking away wasn't as easy as it looked. Sure, my body left, but my mind, my heart, they were still trapped in memories, nights replaying every word, every insult, every humiliation. Why wasn't I enough? Why did they hate me for existing? The questions haunted me, louder than their voices ever did. I tried to distract myself. I buried myself in work, in projects, in anything that made me feel like I mattered. But some nights, the silence was unbearable. You know that silence? The one where your own thoughts become the enemy? Where even the quiet feels like screaming? Yeah, that one. But here's where everything started to shift. I realized healing isn't pretending it didn't happen. Healing is staring straight into the wound and saying, "You don't own me anymore. It's ugly. It's painful. But it's also the most powerful thing you'll ever do." Have you ever felt that? So I started writing letters I never sent. Letters to my mother, to my father, to my sister. Pouring every unsaid word onto paper. Every scream I swallowed, every tear I hid. And with every letter, the weight on my chest got lighter. The fog started to clear. And one night, I burned them. Every single letter. Watched the flames consume years of pain, years of begging, years of trying to be enough. And as the smoke rose, so did I. A different version of me. A version they could never touch again. But life had one more surprise waiting. Out of nowhere, my father called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. His voice was shaky, softer than I'd ever heard. "Your mother's not well," he said. For a moment, I felt something. Guilt? Compassion? I'm not sure, but it was there. He continued, "She wants to see you." And just like that, every wall I built started trembling. Part of me whispered, "Don't do it. It's a trap." But another part, the little girl inside me still craving love, wondered, what if this time is different? Foolish or brave? I didn't know. I agreed to meet. But this time, it was on my terms. No begging, no apologizing, no shrinking. I walked into that house, not as the broken daughter, but as the woman I became. And the moment my mother saw me, her eyes widened. But it wasn't joy. It was fear. She was weak, fragile, a shadow of the woman who once towered over me with insults. And yet, her mouth still managed to spit venom. "Look at you, thinking you're someone now." I smiled, calm, collected. "I don't think it," I said. "I know it." Silence. A heavy, bitter silence. Then, the words I never expected. "I regret nothing." No apology, no remorse. Just poison, yeah, until the very end. And in that moment, every last piece of hope inside me died. But something else was born. Something stronger. Something unbreakable. Then I regret ever wasting my love on you. The room went cold. My words hung in the air like a slap neither of us expected. My father shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes like he always did. My sister stood in the corner, arms crossed, smirking, as if enjoying the show. But I wasn't here for her, not anymore. My mother coughed, her hands trembling. "You think you're better than us?" she hissed. I leaned forward, looking her straight in the eyes. "No. I just know I'm better than who you said I was." Her face twisted. Shock. Rage. And beneath it all, fear. Yes. She feared losing control. Then came her favorite line. "After all we did for you, you're ungrateful." I chuckled, not out of disrespect, but out of disbelief. "All you did was teach me exactly what love is not." Her mouth opened, but no words came out, because deep down, she knew it was true. Have you ever stood in front of the person who broke you and realized they're smaller than the pain they caused? That they were never the giant you thought they were, just broken people, breaking others? That realization hit me like lightning. And with it came freedom. I stood up, calm, unshaken. "I forgive you," I said. "Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace." Her eyes widened. My father's mouth opened slightly, but no words came. My sister rolled her eyes. "And me?" I turned around and walked out. As I closed that door, something strange happened. The weight I carried for years vanished, just like that, as if every insult, every humiliation, every scar was locked behind that door. And for the first time, the air felt lighter, the sky brighter, my soul free. But freedom has a way of attracting chaos. A week later, I received a letter from my father. My hands trembled opening it. Was it an apology? A goodbye? No. It was something else. Something I never saw coming. A copy of his will. His last attempt to control me, even from the grave. The letter was cold, calculated. "Your sister inherits the house, the business, everything. And me? You get nothing, because you were always ungrateful." My hands shook, my heart raced. Not because of the money. No, but because even in his final words, he chose to humiliate me. For a second, that old wound cracked open. That voice in my head whispered, "You're not enough." But then, another voice rose, louder, stronger. "This isn't your worth. This isn't your ending." And just like that, the tears dried, the pain transformed into something else. Fuel, pure, unstoppable fuel. "Fine," I whispered. "If they think I'm nothing, I'll show them what nothing can become." And with that, a new chapter began. Not one of revenge, but one of evolution, of becoming everything they said I couldn't be. I spent that night staring at the ceiling, thinking, why does it still hurt? I thought walking away would be the end of it. But healing isn't a straight line. It's messy. It's confusing. Some wounds reopen, just to remind you how far you've come. But this time, I wasn't sinking. Instead of breaking, I started building. I wrote down every dream they laughed at, every goal they mocked. I turned their insults into blueprints, their rejection into motivation, and I promised myself, I will become everything they said I couldn't, and more. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. I applied for jobs I was told I'd never get, enrolled in courses they said were a waste of time, and for the first time, the reflection in the mirror didn't look broken. She looked determined, fierce, free. Have you ever seen that version of yourself? The one they tried to bury? Of course. Life didn't suddenly get easy. There were days filled with doubt, nights where the silence echoed too loud, moments where I almost picked up the phone to hear their voices, But I didn't, because I knew. Hearing them would be like reopening a wound with bare hands. So I kept going, one step at a time, quietly, relentlessly. And with every step, I became less of who they wanted me to be, and more of who I was always meant to be. And trust me, that kind of freedom, it's intoxicating. But the universe has a twisted sense of humor. One morning, I opened my email, and there it was, a message from a lawyer. "We need to discuss the estate of your father." My stomach dropped. After everything, why now? Part of me wanted to delete it, pretend it didn't exist. Curiosity won. I called, and the lawyer explained, "There's been a development in the will." I rolled my eyes. Let me guess, another slap in the face? But what he said next froze me. "Your father left. A second letter. A private one. Only for you." My hand shook. A second letter? After everything? Was it an apology? A confession? Or just another dagger wrapped in paper? I wasn't sure if I wanted to read it, but deep down, a part of me still craved answers, closure, even if it came covered in poison. The next day, the letter arrived. I held it, staring at my name written in his handwriting. My heart pounded. My hands trembled. For minutes, I just sat there, debating, fighting with myself. Do I open this, or do I burn it? But curiosity, it always wins, doesn't it? I tore it open, slowly, carefully, and the first line, "If you're reading this, then it means I'm gone, and there's something you need to know." My breath caught in my throat, because whatever came next, I knew it would change everything. The letter continued. "I know. I was never the father you needed. Maybe not even the father you deserved." My hands trembled. Was this regret? Or manipulation disguised as honesty? I kept reading, bracing for the dagger I was sure would come at any moment. The truth is, I envied you. My heart stopped. What? I blinked, reading the line again. "You were everything your mother and I weren't. Brave, sensitive, strong enough to feel, while we drowned in our own emptiness." For a moment, the air disappeared from the room. Hurting you was never really about you. It was about our own failures, our own misery. You were just the easiest target. And for that, I'm sorry. My eyes flooded. Not because it fixed anything, but because hearing those words, after a lifetime of silence, cracked something inside me. But then came the twist. "There's one more thing. Something we never told you." My hands gripped the paper tighter. My pulse was pounding. "You were never supposed to be like us. There's something you need to know about the day you were born." My breath hitched. "What does that mean?" I whispered. And then, the line that shattered my world. "You were adopted." The paper nearly slipped from my hands. Adopted? My mind raced. My heart slammed against my chest. Everything spun. Every memory, every insult, every moment where I wondered why I never belonged, suddenly made sense. This is why. My entire life, built on a lie. I read the line over and over. "We adopted you when you were 2 weeks old. Your biological mother. She wanted you to have a better life. We thought we could give you that. But we failed. We failed miserably." My hands trembled. My breath, shallow. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because your mother, she never wanted you to feel different. But the truth is, we took our own pain and turned it against you. And for that, I'm sorry. Truly. I am." The words felt like fire and ice, burning, yet cold, healing, yet cruel, closure, and chaos, all at once. Have you ever had your entire identity ripped apart in seconds? That was me, sitting on the floor, staring at a letter that explained everything and nothing. A letter that broke me and freed me, all in the same breath. And suddenly, I wasn't angry. I was empty. But then, something shifted. Wait, I whispered. If they weren't my real parents, then who was? And just like that, a new fire ignited, a new mystery, a new chapter, one I never asked for, but one I was now determined to uncover. Who? Am I really? I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Every memory now felt like a lie wearing a family's face. My childhood, my pain, my constant question of, why don't I belong? Suddenly, it wasn't paranoia, it was truth, it was reality, hitting me harder than any insult they ever threw at me. I stood there, pacing, thinking, do I even want to know who she is? The woman who gave me away? But deep down, I already knew the answer. Yes, I have to. Not because I needed her to save me. Not because I needed love, but because I needed the truth. So I started digging. Old records, birth certificates, adoption papers, files hidden deep inside drawers I was never allowed to open. And there it was, a name, faded ink, smudged edges. But a name. My real mother. The woman who brought me into this world, and then disappeared from it. My hands shook as I read the address. A small town, 2 hours away. Suddenly, every part of me was screaming, go. But fear whispered louder. What if she doesn't want to see you? What if she regrets you? Just like they did. And yet, curiosity always wins. Always. I packed a bag, got in the car, hands sweating against the steering wheel, heart pounding louder than the engine. Every mile felt like a lifetime. And with every turn, one question echoed louder than anything else. Am I about to find love? Or just another door slammed in my face? As I pulled into the small town, my stomach twisted. It was quiet. Too quiet. A place where everyone probably knew everyone. And now, here I was. A stranger with 1,000 questions, and a heart barely holding itself together. I parked in front of the address, stared at the house. It was simple. Old, faded blue paint peeling off the walls. A tiny garden out front. Wind chimes dancing in the breeze. My hands hovered over the door handle, but I couldn't move. What if this breaks me all over again? But then, another voice whispered, what if it heals you? I stepped out, walked to the door, raised my hand, but it trembled midair. I stood there, frozen, for seconds, for minutes, for lifetimes. Then, the door opened, not because I knocked, but because she opened it first, as if she was expecting me. A woman stood there, mid-50s, kind eyes, wrinkles that told stories of both laughter and sorrow. Her hand covered her mouth. Her eyes filled instantly with tears. It's you, she whispered. My breath caught. My knees almost buckled. Because in her eyes, I saw something I never saw before. Recognition. She stepped forward. Slowly. Carefully. I always hoped. One day. Her voice cracked. She reached for my face but stopped herself. I'm your mother. And in that moment, my entire world shattered. Not from pain, not from anger, but from hearing something. I had waited my entire life to hear. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The world around me disappeared. It was just me and her, this woman whose face somehow felt familiar, even though I had never seen her before. Her eyes were filled with something I had never received from the people who raised me. Pure, raw, love. She motioned for me to come inside. Her hands trembled. Her lips quivered. I don't even know where to start, she said, wiping her tears. And honestly, neither did I. My voice cracked as I whispered, "Why? Why did you give me away?" The question that haunted me for decades. She sat down, hands gripping a worn-out photo frame. "I was 17, alone, scared. Your father. He left the moment he found out I was pregnant. My family, they disowned me. I had nothing, no money, no help. I made the hardest choice of my life because I wanted you to survive." Her words punched me in the chest. My throat tightened. I thought you abandoned me because I wasn't wanted. Her hands reached for mine, this time holding them tight. "No, never. I wanted you so badly." But wanting wasn't enough. I didn't want you to grow up hungry, homeless, like I did. Tears streamed down my face, because for the first time, someone didn't lie to me. Someone didn't humiliate me. Someone told me the truth. A truth filled with pain, yes, but also love. A kind of love that, until now, I had only dreamed about. We talked for hours. She showed me photos, stories, memories of a life I never knew. A life that could have been. A life that, maybe, should have been. And with every word, every tear, the cracks in my heart started to close. Slowly, carefully, like stitches after a brutal wound. But then came the part that shook me. "I looked for you," she said, voice trembling. "I tried. But they sealed the records. They told me I'd never be allowed to contact you." My chest tightened. "All those years, I thought you didn't care." She grabbed my hands tighter. I never stopped caring. We sat there, crying, laughing, grieving the years stolen from us, healing, piece by piece. And for the first time, I realized maybe I wasn't broken. Maybe I was just misplaced, thrown into the wrong hands. But now, finally, I was where I belonged. As the sun set, she looked at me with teary eyes. "I know. I can't undo the past. I can't erase the pain. But if you'll let me, I'd like to be your mother, starting now." My lips trembled. My chest ached. And through the tears, I smiled. Yes, I would like that. In that moment, everything changed. The years of rejection, replaced by a single word. Yes, a word that tasted like hope, like healing, like home. Because sometimes, family isn't the one you're born into. It's the one you fight to find. The following days felt surreal, waking up knowing that someone out there truly wanted me, someone who didn't see me as a disappointment. For the first time, the silence in my head wasn't filled with doubt, but with peace. A strange, unfamiliar kind of peace. We spent every moment catching up on decades we lost. She showed me baby pictures, told me about the day I was born, how she held me, kissed me, and cried knowing she might never see me again. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "I never stopped loving you. Not for a single day. But the past always has a way of catching up." One evening, as we sat on her porch, her expression shifted. "There's one more thing you need to know," she said, her hands wringing nervously. My stomach twisted. "What is it?" I asked, bracing for another truth. "Your biological father. He doesn't know you exist." My heart skipped. "He doesn't?" She shook her head. "I never told him. I was young, scared. After he left, I found out I was pregnant. But by then he was gone. He never knew. My head spun. Another missing piece, waiting to be found. 1,000 questions flooded my mind. Do I find him? What if he doesn't want me? What if he's like them? But then another voice rose. The stronger one. No, you're not that scared little girl anymore. You survived worse. You can survive this too. The next morning, she handed me an envelope. Inside, photos, letters, pieces of the man who was half of me, but didn't even know I existed. His name is Daniel, she whispered. He lives about 3 hours from here. My hands trembled. My heart raced. Daniel, I whispered back. I stared at his photo. A man in his mid-50s. Kind eyes. A warm smile. A face that somehow felt both familiar and foreign. He looks like me, I muttered. That realization hit harder than anything before. I had never looked like anyone until now. But fear crept in. What if he rejects me? What if he's built a life, a family, and there's no room for me? I looked at her, searching for answers. She squeezed my hand. I can't promise how he'll react, but I can promise you have nothing to be ashamed of. So once again, I packed my bag, sat behind the wheel, but this time, I wasn't driving away from pain. I was driving toward answers, toward truth, toward, maybe, belonging. The road felt long, heavy, but lighter than the one I had walked my entire life. And as the city limit sign appeared, my hands tightened around the steering wheel, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. This is it, I whispered. No more wondering, no more what-ifs. Today, I meet the man who, unknowingly, gave me half my soul. I parked in front of a small coffee shop where, according to my mother, Daniel spent his mornings. My palms were sweating. My chest felt like it could collapse at any second. I scanned every face through the window, wondering, which one is him? And then, I saw him, sitting by the window, a cup of coffee in his hands, reading a newspaper, completely unaware that just a few feet away stood someone who carried half of his DNA, half of his smile, half of his soul. My knees nearly buckled. Just breathe, I told myself. You've survived worse. You can do this. I walked toward the door. Each step felt heavier than the last. I reached for the handle, but froze. What if this was the moment that shattered me all over again? What if this was rejection? Part 2. But then, I remembered her words. You have nothing to be ashamed of. And with that, I pulled the door open. The bell chimed. His eyes glanced up. For a second, confusion. His brows furrowed. Then, something strange. A flicker. A hesitation. Like recognition. Can I help you? He asked. I stepped closer. My voice trembled. I think you might be my father. Silence. Deafening. Time stopped. The newspaper slipped from his hands. His coffee cup trembled. His eyes widened. And for a moment, we just stared at each other. A lifetime. Trapped in a single impossible second. He stood slowly, his hands shaking. His mouth opened, but no words came out. What did you just say? He finally stammered. My throat tightened. I think I'm your daughter. My name is... And my mother's name is... I whispered her name and watched his face go pale. His legs almost gave out. He grabbed the back of the chair to steady himself. No, that's impossible, he muttered, but the way his voice cracked, the way his hands trembled, told me it wasn't impossible. It was the truth finally catching up to him. I pulled out the photo, the one my mother had given me. Them together, smiling, young, carefree. His hands shot to his mouth. His eyes filled instantly. "Oh my God," he whispered. He sat back down, covering his face. I never knew. She never told me. I swear, I never knew. His hands trembled as he looked back up at me. I have a daughter," his voice cracked. His eyes scanned me like trying to memorize every line of my face. How is this possible? How did I not know? All these years. His hands were shaking, his breathing uneven. And then, something I never expected. He stood, walked around the table, and before I could even process it, he hugged me. Tight, desperate, like a man holding on to something he never thought he'd find. I didn't know, but I swear. You're mine. You're my daughter. For a long moment, we just stood there, wrapped in a hug that felt like it was holding together decades of broken pieces. His shoulders shook. His hands trembled against my back. I didn't know. I swear. I didn't know, he whispered over and over, like a prayer, like a confession. When we finally pulled apart, his eyes were red, but his smile was soft, gentle. "I missed everything," he whispered. "Your first steps, your first words, your first everything. And I didn't even know you existed." His voice cracked. I'm sorry. I don't even know where to begin." I wiped my tears, smiled, and whispered, "Then let's start here, right now." His hands covered his mouth, fighting back the flood of emotions. Do you want me in your life?" he asked, voice shaking like a scared child. My answer came without hesitation. "Yes, I do." And just like that, something I never thought possible happened. A chapter closed. Another opened. A chapter where I wasn't the unwanted daughter, not the disappointment, not the mistake, but simply a daughter. His daughter. Wanted. Seen. Loved. Finally, loved. As we sat, sharing stories, laughing, crying, I realized something. Life doesn't always give you the family you deserve. But sometimes, if you're brave enough to search, it gives you the one you were always meant to have. And that was the ending I never saw coming.